With it looking more and more likely that Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins is going to play out 2023 as the last year of his current deal, no extension this offseason. He'll be 35. Minnesota likely drafting a quarterback in a couple of weeks. Looks as though this will be the final year of Kirk playing in a Vikings uniform. But what are the chances that the Vikings do in fact re-sign him after next year, viewing 2023 as a prove-it year for Kirk? First off, it depends on not just the quarterback that they draft, but also how they go about it. So if they trade up in the first round, forfeiting multiple first round picks, then that's it. It's game over. Conversely, if they stand pat or trade down and draft a quarterback, then there's at least some breathing room, not as much invested in that player. And if you go all year seeing all there is to see, he's bad at practice and he shows that he's nowhere close to being a starter at the professional level, then it's like, all right, maybe we should retain Cousins a little while longer because now we need to find the next quarterback of the future. We have to start over. Whereas if you trade up for a quarterback, it doesn't matter how bad he is in practice. You, sooner rather than later, you have to roll him out onto the football field. You invested too much in him to where you have no choice. And the other factor here is that Kirk Cousins needs to go into Rich Gannon mode. Rich Gannon, through age 33, he was a disaster. Sub 60% completion rate, 66 touchdowns to 54 picks. That's with 3 teams combined, Minnesota, Washington, and Kansas City. Now, Kirk, for his career, in comparison to Gannon up to age 33, obviously Kirk is light years better. But the moment that Gannon got to Oakland, age 34, everything changed. A switch went off. 63% completion rate, 114 touchdowns to 50 interceptions in 74 games played with the then Oakland Raiders. 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, league MVP in 2002. Gannon went from, before Oakland, having never won a playoff game as a starter, gets to the Raiders, 3 straight postseasons from 2000 to 2002, finished 4-3 during that time with a Super Bowl appearance his MVP year. Kirk Cousins, at age 35, if he's going to thwart the Vikings' plans at starting over at quarterback, then he needs to be the driving force for this team to get over the hump of just being good enough to get to the playoffs. Right now, he has a postseason record of 1-4. For him, he needs to make it impossible for the Vikings to walk away from. For me, that's an NFC Championship game appearance, a true playoff run. No more excuses. This is it. Get it done. If not, it's been real. We need to see some major results this year in order to say, maybe there's something here after all. Obviously, best case scenario, you win it all. But even if you were to lose in the conference championship game or the Super Bowl, then it's like, well, we were knocking on the door just now. And for a franchise that has never hoisted the Lombardi Trophy, you owe it to yourselves as a franchise and to the fan base to say, let's give this thing another shot. But if it's, well, we missed the playoffs entirely or went one and done, then that's yet another year of having a car that can get you to and from work, no problems. But when it's time to drive and see your family during the holidays or to drive and go on that vacation, that same car always breaks down on the highway. Get a new car. It's time, man. I'm sick of watching other teams go on playoff runs to where even when they lose, if they lose, that is, they're tough outs to where I say to myself, man, it sure would be nice if Minnesota could do something similar. I'm over it. No more excuses. No more, well, what abouts? NFC Championship game. You either get there this year or you don't. Joe Burrow, for example, 2 AFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance, all while his offensive line watched him get smacked upside the head. The yeah buts for Kirk Cousins, the tank is empty. There's no more left to use. Certainly, I don't anticipate any sort of Rich Gannon type of leap for Cousins in 2023. Anything's possible, but I think 2024 for Minnesota is going to be a new era. And now it's comments time. Lucrative says, there isn't an NFL fan alive who thinks Cousins is better than Jones. You are just kind of clueless when it comes to football. Yeah, you're right. Evidently, I am an anomaly to where all the other football fans in the world, me aside, all the other football fans in the world believe that Daniel Jones, who threw for 14 fewer touchdown passes and 1,300 fewer yards compared to Kirk Cousins, they all believe that Daniel Jones is the better quarterback. I am an idiot. You got me there. Jen Jazz says, take best defensive player on the board at 23. A quarterback will be on the board in the 3rd round or trade up to the 2nd round if one falls. So I would categorize that as a high-risk method, Jen Jazz, what you're suggesting. But if it works out, great, it works out. You're saying select best defensive player at 23, stand pat, and if necessary, trade up to get into the 2nd round. Well, by doing that, you would have less draft capital to work with in this draft, as the Vikings, they currently have 5 draft picks. Or you would sacrifice future draft picks. I think your best bet is to trade down from 23 to get a 2nd round pick. But again, it doesn't matter. If the players are beasting for this team, it doesn't matter. But for S&Gs, I ran a mock draft simulation to where once it gets to pick 23, what defensive players, the best defensive players, what options are there left for Minnesota? And it comes down to Brian Bresee or Kalijah Kancey, because if one is there, the other is gone, or Brian Branch, safety out of Alabama. If Kalijah Kancey is there, based off your method, I would go with him. If it's between Brian Bresee and Brian Branch, I would go with Brian Branch. And lastly, this one's a doozy. Last comment is by Tom Van. Oh, please, Randy, no matter what Cousins does, you and Purple Daily flip the script. When we were not winning and his QBR was good, it was all about the stats. And then when he wins 13 wins last year, dude, and you bring up QBR, maybe drinking too much Purple Daily Kool-Aid. If you don't like him, fine, but your reasoning is way off, starting to sound like Mackey. And we know Cousins lives rent-free in his head. Who cares if his QBR was 23? He won 13 games. Okay, this is classic example of hearing what it is that you want to hear instead of listening. No disrespect to you, Tom Van. You're looking to flip the script all the time on Kirk Cousins, trying to be like Purple Daily, bashing him no matter what. So the last 2 to 3 years, when I've been on Purple Daily defending Kirk Cousins to guys like Judd Zulgad, Phil Mackey, and Declan Goff, that never happened? Not only that, but me specifically putting out content on this channel talking about why the Vikings can win their first ever Super Bowl title with Cousins as their starting quarterback. That never happened. All right, okay. QBR, why are you bringing up QBR? It's a ridiculous metric. They won 13 games. Screw QBR. When have I ever used QBR? Me specifically, when have I ever used QBR to defend and or criticize Cousins? When have I ever done that? Don't say, well, there's this one time. Put it in the comment section. Don't say, well, there's this one time. Put the exact title video and the timestamp as far as when it happened. You'll be searching forever. The last video, I talked about QBR because I read a direct quote from Todd McShay of ESPN saying Hendon Hooker to the Vikings at pick 23, where he mentioned QBR. Kirk Cousins, he was 23rd in QBR, so the Vikings need to move on. That's before I proceeded to dismantle the notion that QBR is a good way to evaluate quarterbacks. So you say, well, why are you bringing up QBR? That's stupid. That has nothing to do with the Vikings. They won 13 games with Kirk Cousins. QBR doesn't matter. Yeah, I agree with you. So don't be mad at me. Be mad at Todd McShay.